F1 on BBC Radio 5 Sports Extra.
Hello and good morning to you. This is live coverage of round 2 of the 2025 Formula 1 World Championship. We've headed to the Far East for this one. Welcome to Saturday of the Chinese Grand Prix weekend. The Shanghai International Circuit plays host, and it's coming up to 11 a.m. local time, and we are building up to the first sprint race of the year. And it's Lewis Hamilton who starts on pole for Ferrari. The grandstands have been near enough full since the start of Friday, with record attendance expected, and they could well be in for a treat this morning. Well, let's hope so. Joining myself, Harry Benjamin, for this one is McLaren's Formula E driver Sam Bird and the BBC's F1 correspondent Andrew Benson. Sam, first sprint of the year, and it's a gobsmacked Lewis Hamilton who starts at the head of the field.
Yeah, it was. I didn't understand the Santiago comments as he was coming in yesterday, but look, I think it's great for the sport. Great to see him back on pole position. Me with my papaya kit on, it was a difficult day, wasn't it, for Lando especially. Looks like that car, Harry, is the fastest car out there, but difficult to drive.
Yeah, it certainly does, doesn't it? But Andrew, are we expecting that the McLarens will be able to come through the field? And I say come through the field, Piastri is only third, but it was Lando Norris really yesterday that seemed to not have the best flying laps, which is why he's down in sixth.
We don't know. That's the beauty of this few laps that we've got in the sprint, Harry. Who will come through? Who can come through? The McLaren does look like, you know, the de facto fastest car, but they didn't qualify on pole. Even Oscar Piastri, who well, he said he made mistakes, but he didn't make mistakes as big as Norris did. Big snap at turn 13 on his first lap for Norris, and then he completely missed his braking point at the hairpin. Not the greatest of days, but it's only the sprint. I think that's one of the most intriguing aspects of this race now. Can the McLarens come through? Can Hamilton hold off Verstappen? Because Verstappen, we know, just likes to throw it down the inside, and you make your own arrangements around him. So let's see what happens.
If you are wondering and need a little reminder of how this sprint or race works, well, this is the first of 6 that we'll have this year. Miami will play host along with Spa, Austin, Qatar and Brazil in Sao Paulo will all host. And now the change of format was that we only get one practice session on the Friday morning, 1 hour of running before we went into qualifying for the sprint. And now Saturday morning sees us have this 100-kilometer dash to the finish, which is a 19-lap race compared to the main Grand Prix, which will be 56 laps. And they will race around this 5.4, just over that kilometer track, 3.3 miles, 16 turns, 9 to the right and 7 to the left. And Sam, you've raced this track as well in other categories, and a lot of the drivers actually quite like this track. Fernando Alonso was really complimentary of it, particularly that turn 1, 270-degree corner. There's not really anything like it elsewhere on the calendar.
You're right, there is nothing else like it on the calendar. To be honest, it's not my favourite corner, but it certainly is challenging. You'll see some different lines through there. We saw in sprint qualifying yesterday just how tricky that corner is when the car's loaded up. It's, really challenging when it's loaded up laterally. Sometimes the air can hit the car at a different angle and cause a massive snap. We saw it catch out Kimi Antonelli, to name but one. But it's a challenging track, that's for sure. It's going to be interesting to see how medium compound tyres fare during this sprint race. Will they make it all the way to the end?
Yeah, that will be a big talking point throughout this 19-lap race. And in terms of points, should also say less points on offer for a sprint race. The win sees you get 8 points, second place 7, third place 6, all the way down to 1 point for 8. So only the top 8 will get points for this one. So we are expecting maybe tyres to be a little bit of a concern. Andrew, also yesterday, it was quite windy as well. That seems to have died down slightly today. Esteban Ocon was talking to Aya Komatsu, his team principal at Haas, on the grid, saying that should hopefully make things a little bit more stable for the cars out there.
Yeah, I think that was one of the problems Norris was having, wasn't it, as well as the difficulty of driving that McLaren car. Normally, there's a lot of fusses made about wind, but these are professional racing drivers of the highest caliber. It doesn't normally affect them in any substantive way. It might feel like it does to them, but from the outside it doesn't, of course. It's a lovely day, sunny, 23 degrees nearly, and the cars are about to go off on their formation lap, Harry.
They certainly are. Blue skies above the Shanghai International Circuit as the sun shines down on 19 cars on the grid. We'll have one starting from the pit lane in the form of Nico Hülkenberg after Sauber have elected to change his setup under Parc Fermé conditions. This is how the sprint grid lines up then. It is Lewis Hamilton on pole for Ferrari. Alongside him, his old sparring partner Max Verstappen in the Red Bull. Oscar Piastri is third for McLaren ahead of Charles Leclerc's Ferrari. George Russell in the Mercedes rounds out the top 5. Lando Norris then starts from 6th ahead of Kimi Antonelli. Best of the rest, that goes to Yuki Tsunoda in the Racing Bulls in 8th ahead of Williams' Alex Albon, and Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin rounds out the top 10 ahead of his teammate Fernando Alonso. Ollie Behrman goes from 12th in the Haas ahead of Carlos Sainz's Williams. Gabriel Bortoleto in the Sauber is 14th ahead of Isaac Hadjar. Jack Doohan is the first of the Alpines in 16th ahead of his teammate Gasly. Esteban Ocon 18th. Red Bull's Liam Lawson starts 19th, and Hülkenberg from the pit lane. Now, Sam, we did briefly mention about Max Verstappen, always ready to sling one down the inside, but once again, if we just look on the other side, his teammate all the way at the back. Has been another tough weekend so far for Liam Lawson.
I saw in an article the curse of the second Red Bull driver, and it really does seem like that, doesn't it? Nobody so far has come into that second seat and made it their own. It's remarkable, really. I mean, surely, okay, that car is specifically suited to Max Verstappen's driving style, which is very unique. But surely a driver of Liam Lawson's caliber can get in there and hustle it to the point where he's only a couple of tenths off Max. I refuse to believe he's that much slower anyway. He's got a challenging afternoon ahead of him.
He actually was doing okay. On his first run in Q1, he was I think he was just under 4 tenths off Verstappen, which is respectable for his second Grand Prix. It's not brilliant, obviously, but respectable. But he couldn't get his tyres cool for his second run, and that was the big issue yesterday, getting the tyres down to the right temperature. There's a very, very high mandated Pirelli minimum pressure this weekend. They failed to do the thing they were meant to do with the tyres and make them run at lower pressures, but let's not get into that drama now. And Lewis Hamilton, Harry's coming up to his grid spot. Maybe Liam Lawson can make his way through the field a little bit and salvage some respectability this morning.
Well, let's see. Of course, this is just the sprint race. We go qualifying for the Grand Prix later on this afternoon before Grand Prix Sunday is as normal for the main race. But we get a little taster of what might be to come in just a few moments' time. 19 laps of running, no mandatory pit stops, so everybody hoping to make the medium tyre last the full distance. But crucially, it will be the start that matters most. Lewis Hamilton will have the best view in the house. Just a quick one, Sam, in terms of that midfield fight as well. That looks so tight between the likes of the Racing Bulls and the Williams drivers.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I think it's Yuki Tsunoda versus Alex Albon. Carlos Sainz had a disappointing day yesterday. Let's see if he can get into the points this afternoon.
Okay then, Lewis Hamilton has been lined up there for a few seconds now as the final cars peel on to their starting grid. Liam Lawson peels in to 19th spot. Nico Hülkenberg will be going from the pit lane in the Sauber, so that leaves only 19 cars on the grid ahead of the first sprint race of the year. All cars lined up, the green flag flies at the back. It's Lewis Hamilton on pole. It's all eyes to the lights and foot to the floor for the first sprint of the year in China, and it's an even start from the top two. Hamilton cuts across to defend from Verstappen. Hamilton leads going into turn one as they carve their way through the right-hander, 270 degrees to the right. Verstappen holds on to second as Charles Leclerc is pushing Oscar Piastri for third. Almost contact. Piastri manages to make his way through and hold on, but Charles Leclerc trying to fight him for all his might. They go side by side, but it's Hamilton who leads the way as they peel into the next corner. But Lando Norris gets all out of shape coming into the right-hander on turn number 6 and loses positions.
Terrible turn 3 there for Lando Norris. Just tried to get the overlap on George Russell and got a rear wheel on the grass, and that's lost him 2-3 positions. and now he's under pressure from the Aston Martin.
Yeah, now Norris has fallen back all the way to the lower reaches of the top 10, but a good start then from Lewis Hamilton, who leads from Max Verstappen. Oscar Piastri is third. There's some nice midfield battling going on, as well as the Alpine fights against the Haas. Further back in the pack, Jack Doohan against Esteban Ocon. Doohan's actually lost positions in the early stages compared to his teammate Pierre Gasly, who is up a spot to 15 as they now make their way down that long back straight, 1.4 kilometres before they slam on the brakes. And it's George Russell who has a little look to the inside of the Red Bull, of the Ferrari, I should say, of Charles Leclerc. Russell getting himself up to 4th spot, but at the end of lap 1 of 19 of this sprint, it's Hamilton, Verstappen, Piastri, Russell and Leclerc, the top 5.
Hamilton and Verstappen making a bit of a break for it after 1 lap. I can imagine Piastri will close that gap down, but 2 seconds is quite a lot after the first lap. Go on board now with Charles Leclerc. George Russell just did a great move down at turn 14 to get into 4th place.
Yeah, nice move. One of the big gainers is Yuki Tsunoda, who is up to 6th spot in the Racing Bulls, ahead of Antonelli. Stroll's up to 8th, and they've benefited as a result of Lando Norris, who's fallen all the way down to 9th. It's been a disaster lap 1 for the British racer, for McLaren, who had a rough qualifying for the sprint yesterday, started in 6th. Now will have a bit of work to do, but he is closing in on the back of Lance Stroll's Aston Martin.
Well, we know that McLaren is really, really fast. Obviously, everybody's said that is the car to beat this year. Now we need to see what Lando Norris can do in traffic. Can that car carve its way through? We've seen in the past that some of the best cars out there are great when they're leading, not so great when they're in the mid-pack. Lando Norris now needs to come through the pack to gain some bigger points this afternoon.
He should get the aid of DRS, that drag reduction system down the back straight, which is now activated to close in on the back of the Aston Martin and Lance Stroll. It's almost the beginnings of what could be a DRS train. As further back in the pack, it's Carlos Sainz versus Pierre Gasly, the Williams versus the Alpine over 13th and 14th. Sainz having to defend from Pierre Gasly, who is all over the back of the Spaniard as they make their way round the final corner. The left-hander almost 90 degrees that brings you back onto the start-finish straight. DRS flies open for both of them as they then hit the brakes and sling it into turn 1, arcing to the right before immediately swinging back on themselves the opposite way and peeling out of turns 3 and 4.
Yuki Tsunoda's doing a good job, isn't he, Harry? I mean, he is really, really hustling that Racing Point car, and I wonder if Red Bull now are thinking, we could have and we should have taken Yuki.
Well, he's certainly making a statement, isn't he? We're just seeing a replay of the start as well. And actually, it was a good initial launch from Max Verstappen in 2nd. Hamilton with a decent launch as well, just having that advantage and able to cut across and defend from Verstappen, who wasn't able to try anything down the inside. Now, let's take a look at Lando Norris further back. He has a rough turn 3, gets pushed to the outside, but it's really on the rundown. It's down
to turn 6. If we watch now, we're on board with Antonelli, but you'll see on board with Lando, he just goes to the outside, gets a wheel over the curb onto the dust. That allows 2 to 3 cars through.
Yeah, that was what benefited Tsunoda and Antonelli as well. And really, it looked like he was almost trying to avoid going to the back of the Mercedes of George Russell, but he had room there from what we've just seen on board of Kimi Antonelli's Mercedes. So Norris then finding the grass and losing positions as a result.
Good skills, mate.
That was a super opportunistic move from George Russell, actually, on Charles Leclerc. Caught him napping down at the hairpin. I don't think he was looking for the move and then thought, well, hang on, he's not awake at the moment, I'm just going to send it.
Lap 4 of 19 of the first sprint of the year here at the Shanghai International Circuit. And from pole, it's Lewis Hamilton, who now has over a second clear of Max Verstappen. Then it's Piastri in 3rd, Russell and Leclerc the top 5. Tsunoda is 6th, Antonelli 7th, and Stroll currently rounds out the point scorers. Only the top 8 get points in a sprint race. Norris, after a tough start, has fallen down to 9th ahead of Alonso. Albon is in 11th, being chased down by Ollie Behrman's Haas in 12th. Then comes Sainz, Gasly, Bortoletto is 15th ahead of Hadjar. Esteban Ocon is 17th ahead of Jack Doohan. Liam Lawson hasn't been able to make up any ground, still in 19th, and Hulkenberg from the pit lane has joined up at the back, 20th and last. All 20 drivers still in this one, and really the closest battles look like you're in that midfield gaggle. Tsunoda's got about 8/10 behind Leclerc, but then Antonelli is right behind him, followed by Stroll. So there is a little bit of bunching up going on behind the likes of the Japanese driver. But for Lewis Hamilton, out in front, while he was clear by over a second, Max Verstappen has incrementally closed that down and is beginning to reel in Lewis Hamilton and stalk his competitor, his old championship rival, as they make their way round the final corner to begin lap 5 of 19.
I feel like we're in a little bit of a tyre management phase now. It's kind of calmed down after a frantic opening couple of laps. Now these drivers have got to figure out, how do I get these medium compound tyres to last for these 19 laps? That's what's going to be super tricky. This track is difficult on that front left and the rear left with traction zones. So yeah, I feel like the gaps that we're seeing right now, everybody's just giving their tyres a little bit of a breather, and then we'll see like a second surge of energy towards the end of the race.
It's good learnings for the Grand Prix as well, isn't it? A track that's been completely resurfaced in the build-up to this weekend. So all the time, unknown as to how the tyres will work. This is the sound of a replay from Liam Lawson, who dives it down the inside into turn 14 at the end of the main straight on Jack Doohan's Alpine, and there's contact, wheel-to-wheel contact. It was quite a late move from Lawson, and side by side on the exit with the Alpine. How do you read that one, Sam?
I mean, Doohan knew he was there because the move was already done. The contact on the exit, I think, was unnecessary from both parties, really.
Well, Lawson has made that move stick, and he's up to 18th. Doohan now down to 19th. It's not been a great start for the Australian rookie, with constant pressure on his shoulders, with Franco Colapinto, the reserve driver, lurking in the Alpine garage. Further back in the pack, though, we've got Isaac Hadjar, who had a tough qualifying yesterday, moving down the inside of his F2 championship rival, Gabriel Bortoleto. But Bortoleto in the Sauber, holding firm. The green Sauber, driven by the Brazilian, ahead of the white Racing Bull, driven by the rookie Frenchman Isaac Hadjar. It's rookie versus rookie, with the experienced Esteban Ocon in the Haas just lurking behind, ready to make a move if one falters ahead of him. But into turn 1, and actually running slightly wide there was the Racing Bull of Hadjar, just off the racing line, losing time, and Bortoleto just able to get a little bit further ahead. But a couple of different racing lines being taken coming out of the exit of turn 2 there. The Haas of Esteban Ocon running wide as well. Lap 6 of 19. Hamilton leads by 1.3 seconds now to Verstappen. Piastri is third. Then it's Russell. Leclerc is fifth ahead of Tsunoda. And the next battle that is brewing nicely, is the sound of Kimi Antonelli, the Italian rookie in the Mercedes, who is hunting down Yuki Tsunoda's Racing Bull.
And Harry and Sam, Lando Norris is making no progress at all. He's a second and a half behind Lance Stroll in 9th place. And this is an example of what Norris needs to get rid of if he's going to win the championship, or to make a better fist of the championship than last year. He got a 7-point advantage over Max Verstappen by winning the Australian Grand Prix so impressively last weekend. And here he is. He's had a bad qualifying for the sprint, followed by bad sprints so far. That 7-point gap is going to be completely eroded by Verstappen if this race finishes in the way it is.
Yeah, even though the sprint is less points, they could become crucial at the end of the season if we're going to get a championship fight that we expect. Oh, that was a lovely little move from Liam Lawson. Nipped down the inside of Esteban Ocon's Haas in the turn 14, right at the end of that long 1.4 kilometre back straight. Ocon didn't really fight that one, but it looked smooth from the Kiwi racer, who is now starting to make a few inroads. He started 19th. It's been a rough weekend, a rough start to his Red Bull career for Liam Lawson, but he's now up to 17th. His next attacking victim will be Isaac Hadjar ahead of him. But of course, Lawson, I think, is under investigation. Oh, he was, but it's no further action now for causing a collision with Jack Doohan a couple of laps ago.
Isaac Hadjar trying to go round the outside of the man that he fought for the Formula 2 World Championship with, and Bortoleto just about keeps his car in front. but these two are having a great scrap. Meanwhile, Liam Lawson now trying to get on the back of that train. I mean, we're talking about Liam Lawson here. I mean, he's so wildly out of place. He should be able to make his way through, really, shouldn't he?
Yeah, he absolutely should. Liam Lawson is a top racer, and right now is trying to showcase why he has been chosen to be put in that Red Bull seat alongside Max Verstappen. But you're right, Sam, he is getting a lovely view of the battle between the reigning F2 champion and the man who finished second to him last year, Bortoleto in 15th and Hadjar 16th. They were going side by side through the fast sweepers of 7 and 8, looking very nice.
How's everyone else's front? I'm ready.
So visually, yours do look slightly worse than people.
But then I need some help, don't I? Because I'm just driving so slow and killing the tyre.
Lando Norris struggling with his tyres. Meanwhile, though, it's closed up very nicely at the front. Half a second between Hamilton and Verstappen, with Oscar Piastri right there as well. We've got a three-way fight for the win of this sprint race on lap 8 of 19.
Yeah, all of a sudden it's coming alive, isn't it, this race? Lando Norris there complaining that he's destroying his front tyre. So when the tyre slides across the surface, you can get graining. And it also might be overheating, which is why he's not able to keep pace with the top 8. Right now, Lando Norris, 2 seconds behind Lance Stroll.
Hamilton has also just said he's got front left graining as well. So is this the effect now of tyre degradation and these medium tyres now really having to be nursed to the end? Has Max Verstappen saved a little bit more in his tyres, being able to just manage his pace behind Hamilton? But of course, Hamilton has the benefit of running in clear air. Verstappen has not, but he is really closing in on the 7-time champion, now driving for Ferrari with DRS of Verstappen. Closes in under braking as they chuck it into the right-hander of turn 14, onto the throttle out of 15 before the left-hander that sees off a lap of the Shanghai International Circuit. 16 corners, back onto the start-finish straight we go.
I mean, we typically see Max Verstappen in the Red Bull better on the brakes, better to the apex, but Lewis Hamilton and his Ferrari seem to be very strong apex to exit and getting on power, good traction and getting down the straights.
Much wider line though for Lewis Hamilton coming into turn 1 compared to Max Verstappen, who's keeping it much tighter and earlier on the throttle as he now peels out of turn 3 over the crest at 5 before downhill braking into the right-hander of turn 6. It does feel like Verstappen is able to keep tabs on Hamilton at the moment. Piastri was there with him, but has now fallen back slightly in the McLaren in 3rd. Russell in no man's land, really, in 4th, ahead of Charles Leclerc in 5th. Tsunoda holding Kimi Antonelli at bay for 6th and 7th, with Stroll rounding out the point scorers in 8th. Norris with those tyre issues in 9th.
Play with lines, but just don't let that result in a net increase in slip.
So play with the lines, but don't let that result in a net increase in slip. That's what Gianpiero Lambiase has just told Max Verstappen. Sam, could you try and explain that to us?
So experiment with the lines, that's an easy one, obviously. Try different ways of getting around the corners, specifically maybe turn 1, 2, also turn 12, 13, but what they don't want to do is overstress either axle really and create damage to the tyre unnecessarily.
Right, okay, so he's happy to play around a bit, but don't let that ruin your tyres going
Don't
forward.
slide the car more, basically, if you're going to try and change your lines to try and get past him, or get yourself into an advantageous position to get into position to pass him.
And he has just backed off a little bit further back in the pack. Once again, Isaac Hadjar is getting right into the fight. Bortoleto has now fallen down a couple of places. Hadjar has made gains as an up to 14th. There's a little bit of carbon fibre flies off one of the cars. That's Hadjar being hunted down by Pierre Gasly. The two French compatriots going wheel to wheel into turn 1 as the Sauber of Bortoleto right behind them is going wheel to wheel with Liam Lawson's Red Bull. It's 4 cars fighting over 14th, 15th, 16th and 17th. There are no points up for grabs. It's at the back of the field, but it's spectacular racing. Lawson gets ahead of Bortoleto, who tucks back underneath the Red Bull driver. Can he find a way through? No. Lawson gets that position and is up to 16th. Gasly ahead of Hadjar, 14th and 15th.
Well, Isaac Hadjar then had done a good move, but then he was too busy looking in his mirrors and weaving around down the front straight and gave Pierre Gasly an easy run round the outside.
Liam Lawson began his manoeuvre on Bortoleto, getting oh so close to the Brazilian and the Sauber driver, almost contact with another car for Lawson coming on the exit of turn 14, and I think it was Liam Lawson who lost a bit of carbon fibre.
He's damaged the front left portion of his front wing,
which flew off the racing line into the grassy verge either side. Back up front as we begin lap 11 of 19. It's Lewis Hamilton who leads now. Increase the gap to 1.2 seconds as Verstappen is now the man under pressure as he turns it in for the right-hander of turn 1. It's Oscar Piastri who has closed in on the Red Bull driver. The Papaya McLaren closes in as they make their way through the left-hander of turns 3 and 4, peeling onto the throttle and trying to chase down the Dutchman.
You might see this though, Harry, with a driver trying different lines, kind of adventuring into different areas of the circuit to try and eke out maybe a little bit more tyre life. He might reduce his speed a little bit for a couple of laps, but then once he finds his rhythm again, I think we'll see him close up to the back of Lewis Hamilton again. This is certainly a three-way fight for the win.
So you think this is just Verstappen managing that pace a little bit more, managing those tyres?
I think that he's been trying a couple of different things and maybe they haven't worked. He's world-class enough that he'll learn from that very quickly. We now see a replay of Pierre Gasly going down the inside of Carlos Sainz for 13th and pulling it off. Nice move.
Yeah, making that stick down the back straight into the braking zone, the right-hander of turn 14, and through went Gasly up into 13th, Sainz now down to 14th, then comes Hadjar in 15th. They are all nose to tail right at the back of the field. It's Hamilton who leads though, 1.5 seconds the gap to himself, to Max Verstappen. Then it's Piastri who is tucked right underneath the Dutchman. Russell is 4th ahead of Charles Leclerc. Tsunoda is 6th ahead of Antonelli. Stroll is 8th, and then a further 3.5 seconds back from Stroll is Lando Norris. Then comes Fernando Alonso, the top 10. Only the top 8 get points as Isaac Hadjar blasts past Carlos Sainz in the Williams, and Liam Lawson makes it double pain for Carlos Sainz, who is told to come into the pits. No mandatory pit stops in a sprint race, so either that is an issue or the tyres have just completely given up for the Spaniard in the Williams.
I mean, if it is the tyres, Harry, then that's a dreadful afternoon, but we'll wait to hear what Carlos Sainz says.
Into the pits then, so Sainz is in. That promotes everybody up a place. I wonder if the Williams cars are struggling there, because Albon, who started this sprint race up in 9th, has fallen down to 11th and is kind of on his own, 2.5 seconds back from Alonso. It is just a pit stop for Carlos Sainz. New tyres going on for the Williams driver, 2.4 seconds, and he's fed back out into this race at 21.5 seconds back from 19th place Hulkenberg. So that spells drama for Williams going into the Grand Prix if their tyre life is not able to survive, well, 11 laps on the mediums.
And it's visible for everybody, really. Look at that front left tyre on every single car. There's a band, a darker band that you can see visibly on your TV screens at home. That's front graining. That is not what you want your tyre to look like. But this circuit is really challenging for tyres.
How can we help? Do you have any pace?
No. I'm flat out.
It's Lando Norris's radio. Will Joseph's engineer asking, how can we help? Do you have any pace? The answer, no. Flat out. Lando Norris languishing down in 9th. Meanwhile, his teammate is challenging Max Verstappen once more, coming through the 270-degree right-hander of turn 1, which feeds through into 2, 3 and 4 as you then peek out over the crest of turn 5. It's a slight right-hand kink. That's where Verstappen is coming through now before he heads down through the gears into the right-hander of 6. Piastri still keeping tabs on him, but not really able to break that half-a second marker. Tyre management may well be in full flow here from Max Verstappen, who has fallen back from Hamilton now and given the 7-time champion a bit of space to breathe. 1.7 seconds the gap between Hamilton and Verstappen, and Piastri 3rd.
So far, Lewis has done a great job in controlling this race. Led every lap of this race, obviously, and Max Verstappen never really looked like he's been threatening Lewis Hamilton for that race lead. Of course, we've still got a way to go in this sprint race, but so far so good for the 7-time world champ.
Yeah, this feels like it's a crucial moment in the sprint race for Lewis Hamilton. Piastri looks like he's got more pace than Max Verstappen right now, but he's being held up behind the Dutchman as we head down the 1.4-kilometre back straight, reaching speeds of almost 330 kilometres an hour before they slam onto the brakes once more. And even with the aid of DRS, Piastri is not able to get through, and Piastri will need to pick up some crucial points here after losing out on a podium, possibly even the race win in Australia. But here we go then into turn 1. Verstappen forced to defend as Piastri gets all over the back of the rear wing of the Dutchman. Verstappen takes a tighter line coming through turns 1 and 2. Piastri all over the back but unable to make a way through. Full focus for the Australian to try and get good drive out of turn 3 and 4, but it looked like Verstappen was able to get the measure on him. The next overtaking point will be into the right-hander of turn 6, but no can do. That was Verstappen on the radio saying, both of my tyres, the front tyres, are dead.
This fighting is really helping Lewis Hamilton as well, just escape, the lead now. Best part of 2 seconds, so this is just what Lewis Hamilton would have wanted at the front of the field. It looks like the McLaren is slightly better on its tyres compared to Max Verstappen of the Red Bull, which is why Oscar Piastri at this stage can apply that pressure and try and push Max Verstappen into a mistake or get close enough with DRS that he has a look down into turn 14. This could be a chance coming up now, Harry.
This is playing so nicely into the hands of Lewis Hamilton, who is trying to stand on the top step of the podium for the first time with his new team Ferrari. It is only the sprint race, but could sweet history be made in just a few laps time? We're coming towards the end of lap 14 of 19, and Hamilton has a 2-second advantage over Max Verstappen, who is struggling with his front tyres. He's got pressure from the McLaren of Oscar Piastri behind, who has been relentless in his pursuit of the Dutchman. Down the main straight into turn 1, tough to find an overtaking point there. We'll try and line it up into the right-hander of turn 6 as they peel through turn 2. Keeps as close as he can, does the Australian, to the Dutchman in front of him. Full focus once again on getting good traction on the exit of turn 3 and 4. Heading to the crest of 5. The Dutchman in the Red Bull looking in his mirrors to see where Piastri may be. He's not close enough to try and move into turn 6 as they now make their way through the middle sector in those long sweeping turn 7 and 8 corners.
I don't think Oscar Piastri is going to be able to overtake Max Verstappen anywhere other than into turn 14 with the aid of DRS down the back straight. So for me, he'd charge it up for a lap and use everything he's got to get within a really close DRS range through 11, 12, 13, and then hopefully have an easy overtake. But to try and overtake Max in sector 1 and sector 2 is going to be nigh on impossible. But he's closer this time. He's definitely a bit closer this time, Harry.
This is going to be spicy. Here we go then, down the back straight. Wait for the DRS line before you can press the button. Piastri, he hits it. The rear wing flies open. Verstappen won't get the aid on that drag reduction system. Piastri pulls to the right-hand side. Later on the brakes, will there be contact? They go so close. It's a nice, sweet move from Oscar Piastri, who gets the Dutchman, the Australian, now up into second place as we close out lap 15 of 19 and begin the 16th lap. Verstappen will try and bite back coming into turn 1, but he won't be able to. Piastri finally through. Can he chase down Lewis Hamilton now?
Absolutely. Both McLarens now starting to make their moves. We see Lando Norris now closer to Lance Stroll. Oscar Piastri in second place. Is there enough time for him to catch and then overtake Lewis Hamilton?
These two had a bit of a coming together in Abu Dhabi last year. No such case this time around. Nice move down the inside at the end of that back straight for Piastri, just running Verstappen out of room. very close to wheel-to-wheel contact, but they both keep an eye on the space and both safely through. But Verstappen still trying to stick with Piastri, but he's now able to pull over a second over the Dutchman. 3 seconds the gap between Hamilton and Piastri now. Then comes Verstappen. Russell is fourth ahead of Charles Leclerc. Tsunoda is sixth ahead of Kimi Antonelli. Lance Stroll is now under pressure from Lando Norris, whose tyres might well be coming back to him in the closing stages of this sprint race. Alonso is in 10th. Norris, crucially, will need to get a move done on Lance Stroll because points only go to the top 8, which is the position Stroll currently occupies.
Don't normally give Lance Stroll a big up, Harry, to be honest. It's quite difficult to, but to be fair to him today, he sits over 10 seconds to the good of his esteemed teammate and colleague Fernando Alonso. Very, very surprising to see how far back Fernando Alonso is from the back of Lando Norris. The best part of 10 seconds behind Lando Norris.
It's been a decent sprint, you have to say, for Lance Stroll. He's never out-qualified a teammate or started higher than 10th or scored points in China. Right now, he's looking to break all of those records if he can hold on to 1 point for 8th spot, but it's half a second the gap between himself and the man who came into this round leading the Drivers' Championship after one race, Lando Norris. Another man who's been doing very well in his defensive driving, Sam, is Yuki Tsunoda in the Racing Bulls.
Doing a great job, Harry. Really, really strong job. I'd say he's out of position, but in a positive way. He's got 2 laps to hold on to this 6th place, but doing a really mighty job. I suppose he's got a rookie behind him in Kimi Antonelli, but that Mercedes is faster machinery. Let's make no mistake about it. It should be quicker. It is challenging to overtake around this track, but Yuki Tsunoda, hats off to you, doing a great job.
An engine change for Tsunoda as well coming into this weekend. This time last year it was an absolutely woeful performance for Racing Bulls, but so far they look like they put a nice, neat and tidy package together for the Japanese driver. They're still racing right at the back of the pack as well. This time Gasly is able to make a move on the rookie Ollie Behrman and get himself up into 12th spot ahead of Behrman. Hadjar is 14th, then Lawson, Bortoleto, Ocon, Hulkenberg, Doohan and Sainz right at the back. Sainz coming in for a pit stop. No mandatory pit stops in a sprint, so an issue with his tyres there for the Spaniard, really struggling in that Williams, and didn't have the best of qualifyings yesterday either for the sprint. But back out in front, lap 18 of 19, the penultimate lap of this first sprint of the year, and Hamilton has been able to extend his gap over Oscar Piastri up to 5 seconds now. Then it's Verstappen, then comes George Russell, who is under pressure from the second Ferrari of Charles Leclerc, who almost pushes the Mercedes out of turn 2 as they run uphill towards turn 5. Charles Leclerc looking slightly quicker now than George Russell. Can he try and dive down the inside at turn 6? No. Next opportunity then may well come at the end of that long back straight.
Well, the slowest man in the top 7 or 8 cars at the moment is Max Verstappen. Fastest 2 cars in the top 7 or 8 are both Ferraris.
This is the sound of Lando Norris in the McLaren, who has now been able to get up into 8th spot down the back straight with DRS moving to the inside of the Canadian Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin. Stroll doesn't make life too difficult for him, and a crucial point then gained for Lando Norris up into the points in 8th spot. It's not much, but it's something for Norris.
Yeah, he's on the points board, but that front right, the front right tyre just looks horrible on, front left, what am I talking about? It's front left. Front left tyre looks absolutely horrible on the McLaren of Lando Norris.
In general, the tyres just looking a little bit horrible for all the drivers out there. The mediums, they were a bit of a worry coming into this race. Could they last the full distance? And so far, some have really been struggling as we are now on the final lap of this, the first of 6 sprint events of the year. You're listening to the Chinese sprint with myself, Harry Benjamin, joined by the McLaren Formula E driver Sam Bird in what has been a really intriguing race that is setting us up nicely for qualifying for the Grand Prix later on this afternoon, and indeed the race on Sunday.
We've got a problem in turn 13. It's undraivable. I cannot turn the car at all.
That's Charles Leclerc, but he is driving like he hasn't got a problem. Round the outside at turn 6. Can he get through on George Russell? Russell, the Mercedes man, shows in the door and does not let him through. Russell holding on to fourth, but Leclerc then seems mightily strong in the first sector, but turn 13 is that right-hander that leads you out onto the back straight. If he's got a problem there, it's going to be so tricky for him to try and line up a move down the back straight into turn 14.
Yeah, he's got one more chance, hasn't he, down into turn 14. Can he get enough speed through turn 13? Everybody's tyres are complaining, Charles. You've got to just believe that the car is going to stick. I think he's too far back. There's no traction for him. Out to 12, no speed through 13. He's too far back to have a go. Meanwhile, Harry at the front.
It has been an absolutely sublime Saturday for Lewis Hamilton. After a disaster opening race for Ferrari, he arrives in China and he puts the Ferrari on the top step. It's a first win for Lewis Hamilton in a Ferrari, who takes the Chinese sprint. Hamilton wins for Ferrari ahead of Oscar Piastri. Max Verstappen rounds out the top three. Celebrations down at Ferrari. Anthony Hamilton, his father, celebrating with the entire team. A team Hamilton is still getting to know, is still learning. What a way to recover, what a way to bounce back from Melbourne with a sprint win, setting Hamilton and Ferrari up nicely for the rest of the Grand Prix weekend.
Yeah, what a win. Well, you know, always we see Alpine.
It's the Alpine, and it's Jack Doohan, who has had a bit of a moment. I think that's coming out of the turn 14 at the end of the back straight. We haven't seen how it happened, but he was stopped. Looked like he might have had a bit of contact. He's fallen all the way to the back of the field and will take the checkered flag in 20th and last. He's able to get going again. A bit of a tough race then for Jack Doohan. But, and we're just about to see what happened, battling with the Sauber of Gabriel Bortoleto, and there just seems to be almost a little bit of hesitation, and so Doohan clips the back of Gabriel Bortoleto, sends him into a spin, the F2 champion. They both come to a halt, and then Hülkenberg and the other Sauber has really nowhere to go, clips his front wing. That allows Sainz to get by the both of them, and right at the end then, a bit of bother for those at the back. Sainz gets up to 17th, but here's the man who took the win.
It's a P1, baby.
Great job, guys. Woo. Yes. Good job, mate. Well done, mate.
Good job, Lewis. Well managed. Congrats. It was masterclass for tyres management.
It really was. It really was, Harry. He outclassed everybody else with his tyre management. At the end, he was over a second a lap quicker than everybody else out there, pretty much. He really did manage that superbly. And isn't it great to see a winning Lewis Hamilton again, especially with his new team Ferrari?
That's Hamilton's first sprint win. Here's Piastri on the radio.
Well done, Oscar. Good job, mate. P2.
Good results. Yeah, I think there's some good learnings for tomorrow. So, yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks for the car.
What a way to start Saturday in China, racing around the Shanghai International Circuit. Hamilton takes the sprint ahead of Oscar Piastri. Max Verstappen then, the tyres just getting the better of the Dutchman, finished in third though ahead of George Russell. Charles Leclerc couldn't get the Mercedes in the end in fifth. Good result for Yuki Tsunoda, his first points of the year in sixth ahead of Kimi Antonelli. Lando Norris salvaging 1 point in eighth, just pipped Lance Stroll, who beats his teammate Fernando Alonso in 10th. Then it was Albon, Gasly, Hadjar, Lawson from last on the grid up into 14th ahead of Ollie Behrman and Esteban Ocon. And then with that carnage right at the end between Sainz, Bortoleto and Hülkenberg, it was Sainz who won out in 17th ahead of Bortoleto, Hülkenberg 19th, and Jack Doohan ended up 20th and last, and that is under investigation as well. But for the man at the top of the field, for the first time, he climbs out of his Ferrari car as a Ferrari race winner. Lewis Hamilton, the winner of the sprint in China, celebrates to the grandstand, which is absolutely packed out with flags, all adorned with the number 44, Hamilton's race number, and he is lapping up every single minute of this. Sam, I know it's only a sprint, but it's still something special, isn't it, to see Hamilton on top in a Ferrari.
It's massive. It's massive for him, massive for Ferrari, and also big for the sport of Formula One. To see a giant of the sport, for him to have a big change in the winter break, going to a new team that historically the biggest team, biggest name in Formula One being Ferrari. We were wondering, is this a good move? Will it work? Well, it has in the first sprint race of the year.
Like night and day between round 1 last weekend and round 2. The crucial question will be, well, can we follow this up for qualifying later on today? But right now, Hamilton is lapping up every single minute, going to each and every engineer and mechanic in Parc Ferme and giving them a hug. It's almost like he's a rookie again and has just taken his first win.
Absolutely, but I think this race really suited Lewis Hamilton with where he's at in his career. It wasn't flat out, absolutely give it hell every single lap. This was tyre management, and what's Lewis good at? Races like this now, tyre management, being wise, being smart, outfoxing them with regards to that, and he played it absolutely perfectly.
Max Verstappen comes over and a pat on the back and an acknowledgement between the two of them as Hamilton now begins to take his helmet off. Of course, going back to that iconic yellow that he started his career with, takes his helmet off. The red balaclava is undone, and well, he looks like he did have to work hard for that one, looking a little bit flush-faced, and the smile, though, straight away on Lewis Hamilton's face. We'll hear from him in a few moments, but he's just lapping every minute of this up, walking down the grids, waving to the fans, and you can hear them in the grandstands, packed out for Lewis Hamilton, the biggest attendance the Chinese Grand Prix has ever seen in all of its years. Since 2004 this race has been on the calendar, of course dropped off due to the COVID pandemic, came back with a splash last year and now seems to have really garnered popularity, and with Hamilton moving to Ferrari, they are lapping every minute of it up. But Jacques Villeneuve will be doing the interviews, and first of all he is talking to Max Verstappen.
Well, Max Verstappen, third place podium. Obviously, you're happy when you win, but you've had a hard car to drive all weekend. At first, it looked like you could bring the battle to Lewis, then had to back off. Ultimately, good points at the championship. Are you satisfied with that?
I mean, if you look at it like that, I think it is positive. Of course, I tried to give it a go because I also had Oscar behind me pushing. So I was trying to keep in that DRS, you know, that helps a lot on the back straight. But unfortunately, yeah, I think the last eight laps, I would say, we just didn't have the pace to the others. So I was just trying to survive out there. So I definitely take that P3. Even the cars behind were catching up quite a lot. So it was tough out there to manage the tires somehow. But it's okay. We'll try to do better.
Well, like you said, you had to survive for the second half of the race. Does that give you good info on what to do on the car for qualifying in the race tomorrow?
We'll try to make it better. You know, we'll look into the data, see what we can improve a bit on the car. But I think in general we just lack a bit of overall pace. And then, of course, naturally you have to push a bit harder. You kill your tires a bit more. So that makes it very difficult.
Well, good job today.
Thank you.
Max Verstappen, who finished third in the first sprint of the year. Here's Piastri.
Well, Oscar Piastri, second place finish. Well, you didn't get the points you were wanting in Melbourne, but today you had pace, the car was quick, and out of the whole field, you actually managed to salvage your tires so you could actually be aggressive, overtake, get an extra position. Does that feel good?
Yeah, I think it was a really productive sprint. Obviously, finishing second's always a great result, and yeah, I think I really learnt a lot in that one, and I think, you know, as much as the result is nice, I think the way I got the result, like you said, is an encouraging thing. So yeah, we didn't quite have enough pace for Lewis out front, but no, I think we've got some good ideas for this afternoon and tomorrow, and see if we can go one spot better.
Well, seeing your race pace today in traffic, you're confident for the race tomorrow?
Yes, hopefully we don't have as much traffic though. That's the plan. So we'll see what we can do this afternoon to start a bit higher and go from there. But yeah, I think we've got good pace in the car. We've clearly got a lot of competition this weekend. The Ferraris look pretty rapid, so we've got to be on our best form.
Excellent, great job.
Thank you. Cheers.
Oscar Piastri, who finished second in the sprint for McLaren. Crucial
Lewis,
points.
Amazing. Second race in your... Yeah, let's wait. Second race in your new team. and at Ferrari, and already a win. I mean, after Melbourne, which was a tough weekend, to come here and destroy your position, how does that feel?
Oh, I mean, today I woke up feeling great today. The weather's beautiful here in Shanghai, and we know we have this amazing crowd. But the first race was difficult, and obviously I really do feel a lot of people underestimated the steep climb it is to get into a new team, to become acclimatized within a team, understanding and communication, all sorts of things. And the amount of critics and people I've heard yapping along the way, just clearly not understanding, maybe because they never had the experience or just unaware. And so it felt great to come here and feel more comfortable in the car, because in Melbourne I really didn't feel comfortable in the car. From lap 1 here this weekend, really feeling on it. We've done a great job with the engineers, done a great job, mechanics have done a great job to really fine-tune the car, and it felt great today. I got a good start, and then it was really it's so much grip on this new tarmac. It's really hard to look after these tires, but I think everyone was struggling the same.
Well, you arrived here and we could tell that you had the winning mindset. I mean, you were emotional after qualifying. That's very rare to see you that emotional. Aggressive at the start to stay in the lead, controlled it when Max came back and just disappeared in the distance. That's looking good for the future. This is the Lewis we like seeing, but remember, you have a lot of Italian fans now. You're an adopted Italian, and you know how much pressure that brings. What do you think will be the reaction now back in your new home?
I don't know. I mean, I don't feel the pressure. I'm sure. I know it's a Tifosi. I know the fans. I know the team wants to win, and I know it means everything to them. But I said the other day, like, Rome wasn't built in one day. One step at a time. We're not gonna get ahead of ourselves. We cannot. We got to continue to push. We got to be diligent and just remain focused. Stay calm. Most importantly, stay calm, because these moments get us all excited. But we'll be back at our desks after this and focused on qualifying this afternoon. And, it's a long, long way. So it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? So we just got to take our time.
Well, it was a great race, and it was great to see the winner.
Thank you so much. 谢谢.
Lewis Hamilton then on top for Ferrari. Takes the sprint race win, the first of the year in China, ahead of Piastri. Max Verstappen in third, Russell, Leclerc the top 5, Tsunoda was 6th ahead of Antonelli, Norris taking the final point in 8th, Stroll and Alonso rounding out the top 10 ahead of Albon, Gasly, Hadjar, Lawson, Behrman was 15th ahead of Ocon, Sainz, Bortoletto, Hulkenberg and Jack Doohan 20th and last. All 20 drivers making it to the finish. And that's just the teaser for Saturday. We're going to go qualifying for the Grand Prix later on today. You can join us for that on 5 Sports Extra. It will be on air from 5 to 7 in the morning ahead of the session getting underway at 7 o'clock. My thanks to Andrew Benson, to Sam Bird. I've been Harry Benjamin. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live.